NGA demands Russia to withdraw its military from Ukraine's nuclear plant. Germany to ban components from Chinese telecom giants and its 5G networks. Salam Malaysia, Madani, and good afternoon. You're watching World Today, and I'm Renee Fong. The United Nations General Assembly on Thursday demanded that Russia urgently withdraw its military and other unauthorized personnel from Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and return it to the full control of Ukrainian authorities. The 193-member General Assembly adopted a resolution with 99 votes in favor, 9 against, and 60 abstentions. The Zaporizhzhia plant, the largest in Europe, was captured by Russia shortly after it launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. It is shut down but needs external power to keep its nuclear material cool and prevent a meltdown. Throughout the war, Ukraine and Russia have accused each other of shelling the plant and putting down power lines. Ukraine has dismissed Russian accusations, saying it was not attacking nuclear facilities. Previously, Deputy Russian UN Ambassador Dmitry Polyansky told the General Assembly before the vote that a Ukrainian drone had been used to attack the Zaporizhzhia power plant on 7th April. Russia was diplomatically isolated several times during the first year of the war, when almost 3/4 of the General Assembly repeatedly voted to denounce Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. The resolution adopted on Thursday again demands that Russia immediately cease its aggression against Ukraine and unconditionally withdraw all of its military forces. The General Assembly has been the focus for UN action on Ukraine because the 15-member Security Council has been paralyzed by Russia, which holds a veto power along with the United States, China, France, and Britain. Canada's ambassador to Egypt said on Thursday that his country is committed to helping Gaza. Ambassador Louis Dumas made the comments during a visit to the Rafah border crossing. He was accompanied by Canada's Deputy Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, Harpreet Kochar. The two also visited aid storage facilities in Arish City in North Sinai as well as Rafah border crossing. Canadian officials were accompanied by recently appointed Governor of North Sinai, Khalid Megawer, and Egyptian Red Crescent staff. Since 7th May, Israeli tanks have advanced in several districts of Rafah. Forces have remained in control of the entire borderline with Egypt and the Rafah crossing, the only gateway for most of Gaza's 2.3 million people with the outside world. The flow of aid across the border from Egypt has stopped since then. Israel denies accusations it has created the famine conditions and instead blaming aid agencies for distribution problems and accusing Hamas of diverting aid, allegations the Freedom Fighter group deny. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer called on other NATO allies on Thursday to do more to increase their defence spending. In a speech at his first international summit since becoming Britain's Prime Minister last week, Starmer repeated that his government would come up with a roadmap to reach 2.5% of GDP on defence spending, a target he has yet to set out a timetable for. At the NATO summit in Washington, he said 23 members out of the 32 in the alliance were now spending 2% of GDP on defense. An analysis published in April by the previous Conservative government showed NATO qualifying British defense spending was expected to be 2.32% of GDP in the 2024-2025 financial year.
Today, this alliance is stronger than ever. 23 members are now spending 2% of their GDP on defence. But in light of the grave threats to our security, we must go further. So we will conduct a strategic defence review to strengthen our armed forces and protect our national security. And we will set out a clear path to spending 2.5% of our GDP on defence. And I say with candour to all our allies, we must understand that this is now essential. This is a defensive alliance. We do not seek conflict. But we know that the best way to avoid it is to prepare for it and to lead.
US President Joe Biden said on Thursday the Israel-Gaza war must end now and Israel must not occupy the enclave after the war, telling reporters his ceasefire framework had been agreed on by both Israel and Hamas, but there were still gaps to close. At a news conference during NATO summit, Biden said he supports Israel's attempts to eradicate Hamas in Gaza, but that it's time to end this war, and he expressed support for reaching a ceasefire.
For months, the United States has been working to secure a ceasefire in Gaza, to bring the hostages home, to create a path for peace and stability in the Middle East. 6 weeks ago, I laid out a detailed plan in writing. It was endorsed by the UN Security Council, the G7. That framework is now agreed on by both Israel and Hamas. So I sent my team to the region to hammer out the details. These are difficult, complex issues. There's still gaps to close, but we're making progress. The trend is positive. And I'm determined to get this deal done and bring an end to this war, which should end now.
Israel has waged a devastating offensive across the Gaza Strip for over 9 months following a cross-border attack by the Palestinian group Hamas on 7th October. About 250 others were taken back to the coastal enclave as hostages. Over 38,000 Palestinians have since been killed in Gaza, with much of the territory of 2.3 million people reduced to ruins. Most of the civilian population has been displaced and is at imminent risk of famine as Israel maintains stringent restrictions on the delivery of humanitarian assistance. U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump challenged Joe Biden to another presidential debate this week and a golf match that he claimed would be bigger than the Ryder Cup or even the Masters during his latest campaign rally. Trump's challenges to Biden came as he was confident after his maiden debate performance against the president late last month. Speaking at his golf club in Doral, Trump blasted the 81-year-old Biden about his shaky debate performance, which prompted worries about his mental fitness for office and calls from some Democrats for him to step aside.
As you know, in our recent debate, let's do another debate this week so that Sleepy Joe Biden can prove to everyone all over the world that he has what it takes to be president. But this time it will be man-to-man, no moderators, no holes barred. Just name the place, anytime, anywhere. I'm also officially challenging Crooked Joe to an 18-hole golf match right here. On Doral's Blue Monster, considered one of the greatest tournament golf courses anywhere in the world, one of the great courses of the world. It will be among the most watched sporting events in history. Maybe bigger than the Ryder Cup or even the Masters.
The first presidential debate in Atlanta on 27th June was widely seen as disastrous for Biden and has led to questions about his fitness to lead and ability to win re-election even within his own party.
Trump, this is the first.
Now over to Europe, where Germany said on Thursday it will phase out the use of components from Chinese telecom giants Huawei and ZTE in its 5G networks in the coming years due to national security concerns. It was the latest move by Berlin to reduce economic reliance on Beijing that some fear have left it vulnerable, and follows warnings from the EU that the firms pose a risk to the bloc. The Interior Ministry in Berlin said parts from Huawei and ZTE will no longer be used in core FG mobile networks by the end of 2026 at the latest. In 5G access in transmission infrastructure, the systems of the telecom firms must be replaced by the end of 2029. The ministry said that 5G networks form part of Germany's critical infrastructure and are important for the functioning of sectors ranging from health to transport and energy. Officials have reached agreements with Germany's 5G network operators, Deutsche Telekom, Vodafone and Telefonica, on banning Huawei and ZTE. Government sources had already indicated in September last year that Berlin was considering such a move, although the dates announced are later than those originally envisaged to give companies time to adopt the new measures. In response to the ban, Huawei insisted there was no specific evidence that the firm's technology has cybersecurity risks. Beijing's embassy in Berlin also said the move was driven by groundless accusations. Coming up, U.S. offers $12 million rewards for trendy Uruguay gangsters. Stay tuned. Taiwan's Coast Guard on Thursday claimed Chinese Coast Guard ships were entering prohibited waters around Taiwan's frontline islands of Kinmen. In response to the alleged intrusion of its waters, Taiwan said it dispatched 4 of its own Coast Guard vessels to conduct one-on-one monitoring alongside the 4 Chinese ships. The 4 Chinese vessels approached the outer boundary of restricted waters around Kinmen and entered the Taiwan-controlled waters in the morning from 4 different points to the east and southeast of Luoluo Bay, the south of Zaishan, and the south of Fangzhou. According to the Taiwan Coast Guard, the intrusion was the first this month and the 31st this year. Personnel from the Taiwan Coast Guard vessel PP-181 sent a radio message to China Coast Guard vessel 14508 asking it to leave immediately. Kinmen is a short boat ride from the Chinese cities of Xiamen and Guangzhou. Taipei has controlled it since the defeated Republic of China government fled to Taiwan in 1949 after losing a civil war with Mao Zedong's communists, who set up the People's Republic of China. From the island of Taiwan to the African continent, where Kenyan President William Ruto on Thursday dismissed his entire cabinet apart from the foreign minister in the wake of nationwide anti-government protests. Kenya's Ruto sacks cabinet after nationwide protests over new taxes. The youth-led protests sparked by planned tax hikes, which Ruto was forced to abandon, have created the biggest crisis of his 2-year presidency. At least 39 people were killed in clashes with the police, and some demonstrators briefly stormed Parliament last month.
I have today, in line with the powers given to me by Article 1521 and 1525B of the Constitution and Sections 12 of the Office of the Attorney General's Act, decided to dismiss with immediate effect all the Cabinet Secretaries and Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya, of the Cabinet of Kenya, except the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs. And of course, the office of the Deputy President is not affected in any way.
Ruto has been caught between the demands of lenders such as the International Monetary Fund (IMF) to cut deficits and a hard-pressed population reeling from rising costs of living. Last week, he proposed spending cuts and additional borrowing in roughly equal measure to fill the nearly $2.7 billion budget hole caused by the withdrawal of the tax hikes. Opposition protesters pelted Albania's government building and Tirana mayor's office with petrol bombs late on Thursday, accusing state officials of involvement in organized crime and corruption after their leader was placed under house arrest. Thousands gathered in front of the government headquarters in the capital Tirana as riot police officers cordoned off the office of Prime Minister Edi Rama. Protesters later moved outside Tirana mayor's office, throwing petrol bombs and scuffling with police. Police did not intervene but immediately extinguished fires from the petrol bomb. There were no immediate reports of injuries. Opposition leader Salih Berisha addressed the protesters via a video linked from house arrest. He is being investigated for alleged corruption while Prime Minister between 2005 until 2013. Berisha has denied wrongdoing, accusing Rama of a political vendetta meant to silence opponents. Rama denies this. The main opposition Democratic Party accuses Rama of nepotism and corruption, which it says are prompting many young people to emigrate for a better life in Western Europe. Over in the UK, British police said on Thursday that the suspect of a triple murder in Bushey is in a serious condition and is yet to speak with officers. According to a statement by Hertfordshire Police, suspect Kyle Clifford, wanted in connection with the attacks, was located Wednesday afternoon and is currently receiving medical treatment in a London hospital. Hertfordshire Police said a crossbow has been recovered as part of the investigation into the killings of Carol Hunt, Hannah Hunt and Louise Hunt, the wife and two daughters of BBC racing commentator John Hunt. Clifford, who was captured in Anfield following a manhunt, has not yet been questioned as he remains in a serious condition in hospital. In a statement from Washington, D.C., Prime Minister Keir Starmer offered his condolences and said the Home Secretary would review legislation concerning crossbows. A vigil for the victims was held at St. James Church in Bushey, the leafy town some 32 kilometres northwest of London, where the three victims lived. On Thursday, flowers, cards and tributes have been left by Bushey residents at the home of the victims. The United States government on Thursday offered rewards totaling $12 million for information on the whereabouts of three leaders of the Venezuelan Tren de Aragua gang who are possibly hiding in Colombia.
Los tres cabecillas son Hector Rustenford Guerrero, alias Niño Guerrero, hasta $5 millones. Johan José Romero, alias Johan Petrica, hasta $4 millones. Y Giovanni San Vicente, alias Giovanni, or alias Viejo, or alias El Viejo.
The group was designated as a transnational criminal organization for activities including human smuggling, gender-based violence, money laundering and drug trafficking. These State Department rewards are offered in coordination with the government of Colombia and are also announced in coordination with the U.S. Department of the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control. The authorities said the Biden administration will deploy all possible tools and authorities against gangs such as Tren de Aragua that prey on vulnerable populations to generate revenue, engage in a range of criminal activities across borders, and abuse the U.S. financial system. Tren de Aragua is a transnational criminal organization that began as a prison gang in the Tocoron prison in the state of Aragua in Venezuela. Over the past 6 years, Tren de Aragua leader Niño Guerrero has expanded the group's criminal network throughout South America and recently extended north into Central America and the United States. A tremor in a coal mine in southern Poland on Thursday left 17 miners injured and 2 others missing. Leszek Pietraszek, head of the PGG mining group, which operates the Rydotawi mine, said there were 78 miners in the affected area during the incident. Rescue teams have brought out 76 coal miners. However, 2 miners are still trapped underground. It said one of the 2 miners still in the mine had been located and rescuers from among 11 search parties were trying to reach him. The mine operator had initially said there were 68 miners underground. Pietraszek said 17 miners were hospitalized, including 1 in a serious condition with head and chest injuries. According to experts, the tremor was the biggest recorded since the Second World War, with an estimated magnitude of 3.1 to 3.4 on the Richter scale. A PGG spokesperson earlier said the tremor occurred at around 600 GMT, about 1,200 meters below ground at the Rydotawi mine. A fire that broke out in the northern French city of Rowan Cathedral on Thursday was put out by authorities, causing only minor damage. Firefighters brought the blaze on the spire of the historic landmark under control after it had sent a thick plume of smoke into the sky and reminded onlookers of the fire at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. According to local fire authorities, the flames were officially extinguished at 4:30 p.m. local time. Earlier, people in the streets below watched in horror as 40 fire engines rushed to the site, and emergency workers set up a cordon around the cathedral, a jewel of French medieval Gothic architecture made famous by the paintings of Impressionist Claude Monet in the 19th century. The spire had been in renovation for years and was surrounded by scaffolding and a white cover when the fire began about 120 meters above ground level. Rowan Cathedral looked to have escaped the fate of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, where a devastating fire, which also started during renovation works, destroyed the roof, the spire, and almost toppled the main bell towers. Up next, Uruguayan players clash with fans following defeat to Colombia. That and more in our sports segment. Kicking off our sports segment this afternoon, Colombia beat Uruguay 1-0 in a Copa America semi-final on Wednesday, despite playing the second half with only 10 men to set up a title decider against defending champions Argentina, before the night descended into chaos as players clashed with fans. After the game, video showed what appeared to be Uruguay players wading into the stands to exchange blows with Colombia fans as police personnel tried to keep the two sides apart. South American governing body Kinmen said it was investigating the incident. Uruguay's manager Marcelo Bielsa said he did not see the incident as he had gone to the locker room. With the majority of the 70,000-plus crowd cheering on Colombia from the start, Jefferson Lerma scored the winner after Uruguay forward Darwin Núñez had missed 3 good opportunities to put his side ahead. Colombia faced Argentina in Florida on Sunday, while Uruguay stay in Charlotte for the third-place playoff against Canada on Saturday. It is Uruguay's first Copa performance since their last title win in 2011. Argentina are tied with Uruguay on 15 Copa titles and will own the record outright if they beat Colombia at Miami Gardens. Bayern Munich have signed Portuguese midfielder João Palhinha from English side Fulham on a 4-year contract. The 29-year-old, who moved to Fulham in 2022, made 79 appearances for the Premier League club in all competitions, while he has also featured 31 times for Portugal's senior team. While financial details were not disclosed, The Athletic reported the deal was worth 51 million euros. Pautan said in a statement that he is happy to join one of the top clubs in Europe. Pautan had been close to joining Bayern in 2023, but the transfer fell through on deadline day. Bayern Munich appointed Vincent Kompany as coach after their 11-year reign as Bundesliga champions was ended by Bayer Leverkusen. Pautan is Bayern's second major signing off the close season window to come from the Premier League, following their acquisition of winger Michael Ollis from Crystal Palace. Now let's move to cycling. Eritrean Biniam Girmay edged out Wout van Aert to win the 12th stage of the Tour de France on Thursday, while Slovenian Tadej Pogačar retained the overall leader's yellow jersey. Girmay, who became the first black African to triumph on the Tour when he won the third stage, sealed his third win at this year's race on a day for the sprinters. Girmay outpaced Belgium's Van Aert and Arnaud Démare, although Démare was later relegated to the back of the sprint bunch. His win consolidated his hold on the green jersey with a 107-point advantage over Jasper Philipsen. It was quite a day for the general classification contenders, with Pogačar protecting his 1 minute 6 seconds lead over Remco Evenepoel, followed by defending champion Jonas Vingegaard a further 8 seconds back. However, Pogačar's compatriot Primož Roglič endured another luckless outing on the bike, losing more than 2 minutes due to a crash towards the end of the stage. The 2023 Giro d'Italia winner was brought down 12 kilometers from the finish line a day after suffering another crash on stage 11. Roglič, with a torn jersey and a bloodied shoulder, was nursed to the finish line by his teammates and is now 6th overall, 4 minutes 42 seconds down on Pogačar. Now let's move on to the tennis court. 7th seed Jasmine Paolini became the first Italian woman to reach the Wimbledon final after defeating Croatian Dona Vekic 2-6, 6-4, 7-6, 8 on Thursday in the longest women's semi-final at the All England Club. Fans were treated to a roller coaster encounter on centre court as both players exhausted themselves seeking a spot in the final. The Croatian 28 took the opening set comfortably, having broken Paolini in the 5th game and then again in the 7th with her mixture of ground strokes and drop shots, proving too much for the Italian under a sunny sky. However, Paolini became more aggressive in the second as she approached the net more and put Vekic on the back foot. Her diligence and energy eventually paid off with a break to clinch the set. The pair exchanged breaks in the decider as both racked up the enforced errors, particularly Vekic, who looked fatigued and emotional as the match wore on. She was in tears after saving Paolini's first match point. A successful challenge overturning a line call helped Paolini hold an almost 10-minute game that ended in Vekic sobbing in her chair at the changeover. The Croatian rallied to save another match point and held serve to force a tiebreak, but it was Paolini, 28, who prevailed and won the 2-hour, 51-minute match to reach her second successive Grand Slam final after the French Open last month. And that wraps up this bulletin for this afternoon. A recap of our top story today. UNGA demands Russia to withdraw its military and surrender Ukraine's nuclear plant. Do join us again this evening at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 in saluran Berita RTM for more. Alternatively, you can stream us on RTM Click's website or mobile app. Till then, I'm Renee Fong. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thanks for watching and have a pleasant afternoon.